Howdy ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 504. The Detroit Lions are ready to feast. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I'm your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my somewhat also equally dashing co-host and good friend, Jeff the Riz Rizden. How you doing, brother?
Chris, it is good to be with you live. I missed you last week. I had to do this solo. It was awkward. I needed you at times. If you watched it, you know I needed your guidance. I needed your so it's good to be back with you on a Victory Tuesday, sandwiched between a Victory Sunday and a Victory Thursday.
That's right. Yes. Oh man, we got a good show. I'm excited to be back. It was a long week away. I've got this week off work though. I'm already regenerating and regenerated. Still trying to catch up. This is the last show. Then it's turkey time. It's a lot of coast. It's a little bit of Call of Duty, which God, I love Call of Duty. It's been fun. This new release has been a lot of fun. A little bit of time with Malcolm and some other folks as well. Having a good time. Anyway, we got a show. We got a good show going here. We'll start with warm-ups like we like to do. Let our friends gather in the lobby. Dumper, Floundericious, I see all you. I see you all. And big thanks really quick before we go. I got to shout out Ben Rose for the $500 during the post-game show to St. Jude. Thank you so much. There's also Floundericious, another 150 last-minute win, baby. Thank you, Flounder. You've been awesome. Always, every year, you're just spectacular.
Flounder is amazing in the support that he gives the show, gives to St. Jude's as well. Very generous and giving man, and we very much appreciate that.
Yeah, so I didn't get to say that during the show. I was discombobulated between everything, so I wasn't able to get those names. So I did want to give them a big thanks and get their names out there. You can also donate stjude.org/DLP. Let's see, warm-ups. We'll do the team health and injury report. We'll review the Bears game. We got something called Sideline Stunners. We'll talk about that. We're going to look ahead to the Green Bay Packers and a whole lot more. We got a great show lined up. Mr. Risden, are you ready to go, my friend?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
FTP. Let's get it off right.
I have a lot of activity. I have a window right here, and there's a lot of activity going on outside the window.
A lot of effing TP, right?
Maybe. There could be some of that going on.
All right, let's get right into this. Post-game show, I'm not sure on Thursday, just so you folks know. I'm not sure if we will. I'd like to, but it's family day, and you have family day, so we'll see how it goes. And we already talked about St. Jude, so let's get into the warm-ups. Triple B, we're not talking about the Better Business Bureau, and apology time. First one, Triple B, Bye-Bye Barry. It's out. It released yesterday. We've both seen it. We're not going to ruin it for you. You've had one day only to stream it, but I'm going to warn you and tell you all. Number one, it is fantastic. You do not want to miss it. Whether you're live then, whether you enjoyed it or not, you weren't around to enjoy it, whatever, go watch it. You will love it. It is a good part of you. Now, I say that because we will absolutely spoil it next week. So we're giving you a week and a day, yes. A week and 2 days to watch it, and then we're going to go into it. We're going to talk all about it. So, I mean, other people will do it, but they're not going to have our spin. So, we're giving you time. Yeah. We're letting you do it. We're not going to ruin it. So go enjoy it. Bye, Barry. Amazon Prime. Eventually, it's going to drop to the NFL Network. But look, if you don't have the Prime, that's okay. There's, sail. Put on your eye patch, get your peg leg, and sail the 7 seas. You'll find it out there. It's out there for sure.
It's very welcome. One thing about it, and this won't spoil anything. It's incredibly smartly produced. It's they put a lot of attention to detail in how they arranged the show, and it shows. You can tell sometimes when they're like haphazard and they like tack something in later, and it doesn't necessarily fit with where they put it. This isn't like that. This is very slickly done, professionally done. It's really, really good. It is deserving of Emmy consideration for best whatever sports production. It's so much better than Fox's production of last Sunday's game, where they couldn't get the clock right and couldn't get the graphics right. Much better than that.
Yeah. Oh God, the clocks. I'm now starting to have like a twitchy eye every time I watch football because the clocks are such a disaster. Do you remember when they would just put the camera on the clock in the end zone? It would wobble sometimes. Yes. If it was windy, but it was always right. Like it was always right. Like, come on, just give me a freaking real clock. Like, and it's only when you're at the most important part of time, right? When there's 10 minutes and 95 seconds left, I don't care, right? I mean, it's not that I don't care, but I'm like, okay, I want to glance and go, and that's okay. If you're within a couple seconds, I'm fine. But you have to have it on lockdown from about 3 minutes down. You just have to have it on lockdown. You can't, like, what are they doing?
They need the system. We talked about this with Dean, and I talked about it with the director of officials in the state of Michigan on the Huge Show. They need a buzzer or something for the umpire is the guy who keeps the clock.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be looking at the clock. He needs a buzzer that goes off that tells him that it's gone, that the clock is done. They need to. Yeah. We have the technology to do that.
Yeah.
Just have it set to do that. And as soon as that happens, he blows his whistle. Or it could blow a whistle for him.
I can only imagine that, like, the clock is better than it's ever been. The technology is better than it's ever been, right? We have to recognize that. I can only imagine that the issue with them being able to show the clock is that they actually do have the, like, up to the second information on it. And the guy running the clock runs it. He fixes it all the time, right? So we're actually seeing that fix. Whereas before there was a bit of a lag. So you'd see one adjustment. It wouldn't just like disappear because, like, I don't know what it is. I don't want to show something wrong. And then, like, oh, now it's wrong. Oh, now I got to run it down to get it right. Like, they're actually, like, as the refs and the officials are figuring out the time, I think we're seeing it. And they have the clock keeping right, but it's just cycling through the numbers and getting them on at the right time, so that when you start the play again, that they're cycling at the right number. I think that's pretty complicated, and that's been going on behind the scenes forever. And now we're seeing how complicated that is in real time. Right?
It is complicated. That's not an easy job for the timekeeper to do. Like, you've got to understand when the ref places, or the umpire again places the ball for ready. But is he ready? Is he cleared out? Like, when do you start? Like, it's not as simple as it might look, but these guys are trained professionals. They can do it.
I'm starting to nerd out.
I was just thinking about like the idea of the buzzer. Like, they do this in tennis now, where they have the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it that takes forever? Is it Kyrgios? Or no, it might be Medvedev, who takes forever when he serves, and he gets, like, the buzzer goes off, and then the chair umpire issues him the warning, or issues the opponent the point. They can do that in the NFL. If they can do it for tennis, they can do it for the NFL.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'm nerding out on this. I'd like to get into the technology and see, because now I'm starting to think about it. When the play stops, someone has to look on the replay to figure out exactly what time it was, because the guys in the field are watching the field, right? And then there's a guy that says, right, okay, that's when the play ended. Then you got to go through the video maybe and see how much, where the clock was at that point. Okay, we're there. Okay, set the clock to this, and then somebody else has to set the clock. Like, it now feels like there's probably a team of people doing it. And then, like I said, on the downstream side of that, Fox or whoever else is getting the feed. It's weird. It's weird. Like, again, I'm a process guy. I'm a nerd guy. This is far more interesting probably to me than anybody else. I'll stop.
I'm fascinated by it too, just because I've seen it. We've all seen it. We saw the Baltimore game. We lost a game that shouldn't have counted.
Yes,
like on a field goal that shouldn't have counted because the goddamn clock went off. It went off.
All right,
still go off. I'm still angry about that.
The second of the warm-ups, as our friends roll into the lobby here, and thank you, DCP1. Yeah, drop a like, drop a subscribe. We appreciate you folks when you do that. We forgot to ask the last couple shows, so we might ask twice this time. Just bear with. All right, FTP. Yes, Jamie Johnson, I see you. All right, the next one, apology time. It's time, I think, for Lions fans to really take a second and think about this. I'm gonna put something out there that played, and I want people to remember and throw themselves back in time to when this happened and when this was said, and think about the mocking, the absolute mocking that happened. I mean, I saw a journalist tweeting "joke of a franchise" at this point in time last year. Check this out, and I just want you guys to hear this and remember what we were saying, what people were saying about him at this point.
All I'm saying is, we will remain true. We'll remain resilient, and the gut punches will stop.
I can't hear anything, Chris.
Oh, I couldn't hear it. Oh, dang. All right, I'll figure that out.
Hear it. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. Let's see.
I was listening for it. I couldn't hear it either. So, I'll just say that
it was Goff talking about. Okay, I've got it. There we go. Okay, now it'll play. Here we go.
All I'm saying is we will remain true. We'll remain resilient. And the gut punches will stop.
I'm not kidding.
All right. They heard it.
Okay,
Jared
good.
Goff. Jared Goff
Good.
says the gut punches will stop. We'll remain true, remain resilient, and the gut punches will stop. Think back in the day to when that happened. I mean, and again, this is not to pile on, but even I remember Tori Petrie's clear as day. She called him a sweet summer child. This is Detroit. You don't recognize what happens. People were mocking him for saying that the gut punches would stop. And I just was thinking about this as I was thinking about the Bears game. And I'm like, buddies, we dealt the gut punch to the Bears. When we did that 2-point conversion, when we converted that, you could look in Justin Fields' eyes, and he had that old Lions look. They had already lost. He had already lost that game. You saw it in his eyes. We delivered the gut punch and took them out. You talk about a 180 from a year ago, right? I mean, we're talking about a year ago. I think we started our first win at this point last year on the turnaround, but nobody was believing. People were talking about, the loot, getting rid of Campbell, there was all kinds of crazy going on. And he was just outright mocked by people across the board. And now you look, and it's funny. He's our quarterback. And it's the one thing I've said about Jared Goff. Don't sleep on him. He did it at Cal. He did it at the Rams. And now he's doing it here. He's taken franchises that were just absolute piles of shit and turned them into something completely relevant. And here we are again. It's the same story. Jared Goff is a special kid, man. He's a real special cat. And I think the resilience that he has and the belief in himself and the belief in what he does, people take that and run with it, man. That's if you could have that kind of confidence in yourself and what you do and be as good at what you do as he is, man, go with it, because that should be an inspiration for people. What he's done and what the Lions have done since the takeover with Holmes and Campbell in Detroit.
He's shown it that he can do it long term, but also in the short. Like that game Sunday, he didn't play well. I know the first interception was a weird situation, and it probably should have been pass interference, but it also it could have been actually offensive pass interference because it looked like Laporta initiated the contact. And you know how the NFL officiating is. Like that one was weird. Second one was awful.
Yep.
Third one got tipped. From watching the all 22 of it, I will tell you that if it didn't get tipped, it was getting picked by a different Bear who had a clear pick six, easy. Threw another one, clear 99-yard pick six. Jalen Johnson dropped it. Thank you, Jalen. Goff didn't go into a shell. He didn't panic. He kept doing what he does and played his way out of it, played his way through it. To go back to tennis for a second, one of the worlds that I do know a lot about in other sports, the ability to process having bad points or getting bagel in a set. You still got another set to go out there and play, and you've got to have that mental resiliency and that toughness to put your bad play behind you. And I think that's something that Jared Goff did very well Sunday. I also think it's something that he's done pretty well throughout his Lions career. He will have a bad quarter or a bad game. And he's very good about not letting that bleed into the next week, or let it bleed into his approach or his confidence in himself. That's not as easy to do as you might think. That's actually something that Matthew Stafford wasn't good at. If you want to look around the league, Joe Burrow's fantastic at it. Lamar Jackson, fantastic at putting a bad performance behind him. Then you look at Josh Allen, not so much. Now Josh, he's really, really good. This isn't me saying that he's not a great player. He will not get out of a hole that he's digging himself. He will not stop digging. And that has bled across games for him before. Troy Aikman was very much that quarterback to go way back in the day. He was the guy where if he threw an interception in the first quarter, he was throwing one in the second, probably one in the fourth too. That's just who he was. Goff's really good about putting the bad points behind him and going on to the next serve. To continue the tennis metaphor there.
Le tennis. Yeah, no, it's It's I've got a guy here who's hi.
Oh, hi, Katie.
He's a good one.
That's nice.
But he does it while I'm working too. He runs by and his tail does this like question mark across the screen. Come on, man. Anyway, yeah, no, Goff. I see it in the chat here. He's got this stone coldness to him when he's interviewed. He's you look at him and you look at him and you see Ken from the Barbie movie, right? You don't see that kind of, you know what I'm saying though? I mean, he just seems like a real soft kind of guy, like just oh, whatever, right? That guy's he's something special.
He's not like he's not and this will come off sounding terrible. He's not an outwardly outgoingly friendly guy.
Yeah,
that's not who he is.
Yep.
And I think we in the Detroit media have learned not to take that personal. Like that's who he is. Like one of the things, we don't have this on the schedule, but I'll bring it in. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was named the best trash talker in the NFL. And one of the things that we learned very quickly in the media and dealing with him was that that's just his default mode. That's who he is. That's how he communicates. Goff it's a different sort of communication, but Goff is going to be a guy who's going to be a little dry, who's going to not give you a lot emotionally. Now, I will say, and I've never had a solo interaction with Jared Goff where other people weren't around, so I can't speak to that. But I do know people who have been in those situations with him, and they say he's much different then. He's much more casual, much more at ease with himself.
Yeah.
And he's not going to give that away. That's not what he's going to do. And that's not a criticism. That's just an observation. And I think as fans, we can sometimes take that as aloofness or arrogance or whatever. And it is not. That's not what it is. That's not what's going on there. And I think for us to interpret that, it's much more Californian than it is Midwestern. He's clearly a California guy, and that's I think we're learning how to deal with that.
Okay, I got
here and there.
Breaking news. I've got playoff ticket pricing coming through. If you're getting club level seats, think about this, Lions fans. It's not Thanksgiving, and we're talking about and then season ticket holders are getting playoff ticket notifications. A single ticket for wild card weekend or the divisional round at Ford Field, $450 each. Okay.
Wow.
That's not StubHub. That's
the Lions.
Yeah, no payment plan, and it's due. I don't know when, but very soon. The person I'm getting this from is paid now. If you make it to the championship, the NFC Championship, and it's at home, $540 per ticket.
Wow.
Through the Lions. Can you imagine how much that's going to be through SeatGeek or StubHub or one of those or NFL ticket? The Lions are going to be the hardest playoff ticket, and it's what an atmosphere. Oh my God.
Do you remember when the Boston Red Sox got the World Series for the first time I think they were there in '86, but back in 2004 when they came back and beat the Yankees. And the demand for Boston Red Sox tickets at Fenway Park in the World Series, like tickets that normally retail, I want to say they retailed for $18 and they were going for $3,000. That's going to happen in Detroit. You do not want to be. Who doesn't want to be at the first home playoff game that the Detroit Lions win?
Yeah.
In whenever. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a home game. Spoiler alert. We have a 2.5 game lead on the Vikings. But even beyond that, by the way, look at the NFC standings. The Vikings are number 7. Packers are number 8 at 4-6.
Let me poop in your Wheaties really quick.
No.
Yes. And it's yours specifically. Okay.
Great.
I'm gonna do it through something else because I don't think you've thought of this yet. Do you remember Jared Goff throwing the ball and in New Orleans, and it was
yes.
and we had to get by we had to get out of there before the
We
Saints
had to
fans
get
got
the
out of
hell out of
stadium
Dodge, baby.
and started ready to kill anyone to do with football. Well, what if the Lions?
Fastest rental car encounter ever.
What if the Lions are playing at that time, bro? We're going to have to change flights. You can't fly. You
This
can't
is
be
a
flying.
problem I've never had to deal with before.
I know.
This will be. I've been to every Senior Bowl except 2018 since 2008. So I've never had a schedule conflict with the Lions because it's not the first weekend. It's the second weekend of the playoffs.
So
I've never had to worry about these things before
because of the way hotels and things work. Does it? I mean, they could play Saturday though. You know what I mean? It's like you can't change it until later. I'm like, should I book an early day in the hotel, like a day earlier, maybe like a Saturday, and I'll fly in Saturday and I'll watch it from there.
I'll see. You and I are both we're flying in. We're both flying on the same flight in Sunday morning out of Atlanta. We can watch the game. We can have a watch party in Mobile
if it's the later game. If it's the later game.
Well, so we get there at what, like 11:30, something like that.
No, we get there. We should probably do this. We should move on and talk football.
Yeah, we should. We're getting way ahead of ourselves talking about potential playoff conflicts with our Senior Bowl schedule.
Oh man,
let's get there first. But we're well on our way at 8-2 with a divisional game that we're favored by 7.5, 8.5 points against a wounded Green Bay team. We're about to go. Just think about this. We go to 9-2, they go to 4-7. That's a 5-game lead with 6 to play, and they are the first team out right now.
Yeah.
Not quite mathematically clinching it, but pretty damn close.
Okay. So
at Thanksgiving.
Expensive.
I'm thankful for that, Chris. I'm thankful.
Expensive playoff tickets. There's no payment plan. There's going to be some people that can't get their tickets, especially because it's right at the holiday when these things are coming in. It's kind of cold for the team to do it that way. Good luck, everybody. Best of luck. If you can't afford them, let us know. We'll help you find somebody who will. We'll match you with willing payers.
My goodness.
We may be ones ourselves. So there you go. All right. So there's that. Moving to the next topic. Let's go right to it because we want to talk about them. Dem Bears. Detroit Lions mauled the Chicago Bears. And really quick before we get to there's a question that came in. Where was it about Benihana? I'm going to do this forever, right? Where'd it go? Sorry. Okay, well, I've lost it. It was in the chat. Someone asking about Bohanna. Where is he now in the mix? Here it is. So does Bohanna replace Bugs, Martin, or Levi? Basically asking what's up with depth behind Aleem.
He is the depth behind Aleem.
He showed up.
Him.
He showed up. Like he showed up in this game.
Well.
And I love a guy like Bohanna with them big old cheeks and a helmet. You know what I mean? That look, I love it because he looks like he's 5 years old and like a baby in a big helmet. You know what I mean? I love that. It's so great.
360 pounds of man in the middle.
And you know what's funny? When I saw him, I'm like, Bugs is still bigger.
Well, Bugs is not a small man. That's for sure.
Bugs uses thigh pads.
I can't speak to the Bugs situation because I would be speculating and I don't want to do that. I can tell you that Broderick Martin, they do not feel that he is game ready yet. He did not pass their personal internal sniff test. That was the Raiders game that he played.
Yep.
They didn't like what they saw. And they're certainly not out on him, but you're not going to see much of him this year.
Yep.
It said a lot that they brought up Bohanna against a running quarterback when Quentin Bohanna might be the slowest person in the NFL, and that's part of the function of being 6'4" and 360 pounds with 38-inch arms. Like he's not built for speed, but he fills that internal role, specifically one gapping, where he's going to eliminate that gap, and it allows the linebackers to fill a lot better. One of the issues with Broderick is that he hasn't quite mastered, like, I have to take this specific angle on this specific blocker so the linebacker behind me knows where to go. He's still not getting that. They're working on it. He's working on it. He's working very hard at it, but it's not there yet. They don't trust him in that role. Bohannon's got a little bit of experience under his belt. If he wears a belt at that size, you probably better have a belt. He understands the principles of that. And some of that is the fact that Broderick played at a college where, if you watch Western Kentucky, you know that their defense is there to get out of the way so their offense can get back on the field. Like that's what they do. They want to score. They want to win games 56-51. Like that's what WKU does. Mm-hmm. That's not what happens in the NFL. It's a very different mentality, and he is still learning how to do that.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that he won't learn, but he hasn't picked it up as quickly as we all collectively as Lions fans want that to. Levi, another injury setback and that's what he was. It was technically a healthy scratch.
We're going to get into injuries in a minute.
We have very little injuries to talk about this week.
We're
Chris,
doing a lot of wandering here.
We are. That's my fault. I'm scatterbrained. I took a nap today, and I feel great. I'm like all energized, but also scattered.
Bohanna is Benihana. That's his name because he sits down at the teppanyaki table alone. And everything that comes off of that is his dinner. My guy is a big mofo, and he went out there and he cleared some houses. I loved what I saw from him, especially I think anybody that saw his name, or the majority of people who saw his name, that was the first time they saw his name was when he
played in the Lions uniform.
Yeah. I mean, they had no idea who he was or that he was playing or anything, right? He just showed up. Bohanna doesn't wear a belt. He uses one of those ratchet straps, one of those appliance carts. That's awesome. Ratchet is a good word too. I love that. Oh, that's awesome, Don. Hilarious.
That's good.
But he came in and he wrecked some shit, and that was great. I love to see that. I'd love to see a young guy to come in and be able to really make a mark and kind of establish himself. Good stuff. Broderick Martin is a guy that has no shortage of heart. It's going to take some time and growth. That's great. I'll tell you this much, though. On the other side of the ball, since we're sitting here in the trenches a little bit and kind of talking through this game, on the post-game show, we started giving out our own underrated post-game ball. A guy who won't get a ball but deserves a ball. It's Colby Sorsdahl. My guy was out there. Did you hear his name? Once he heard his name for a holding call. But that's not bad.
He had the only Lions penalty on offense of the game. And I saw there was one run play where he got swam. Beyond that, he was fine.
He
wasn't exemplary.
Guard.
He wasn't he wasn't bad. That's kind of all you need.
He moved from right guard to left guard. And to not be bad and only have one penalty to okay, Riz, start throwing with your non-dominant hand. Like now.
That's right.
do it in a ball game. Right? Yeah. It's like, I mean, that's kind of what it's like. Horribly difficult. And he went out there and he performed extremely well. Sorsdahl, fifth round, right?
Fifth round out of William and Mary, where he played right tackle.
He has been a shining star for this offensive line this year. I think what a hell of a pick. Again, Brad Holmes finds the diamonds in the depth of the draft. But this guy, he's played so far this year early. First game, he had a little bit of difficulty to be expected, right? But you're getting to a guy now who's shown up. He could potentially have earned himself a starting role in the NFL next year. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but he kind of changes some of the calculus and conversation as we start looking at what's to come in this offensive line.
Yeah. I would say at worst, he has shown that he can be your sixth offensive lineman next year.
100%.
And as a fifth round pick, you'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah, man. Give me that.
Yep. Well, we might be running a guard rotation this offseason, but we'll get to that.
Might be running it this week.
Jared Goff, unflappable. We talked about that. Goldfish memory. To be able to come back from what he had happened and what he did out there. It's a combination of both of those. And just be able to drive this team to the end. Montgomery, to watch him get the touchdown to seal it, I felt my heart grew like it was like the Grinch, you know what I mean? At the end of the who's and hugging and shit. I was so happy to see him just score and win against those Bears. I mean, oh, they had to feel good. I mean, you see it. You see the pictures. We've used some of them in some of our thumbnails. The excitement from him, and the fact that he talks about the team as, you know, the land of misfit toys. It's really, it's so fitting. You got your Jerrys, you got all these guys that people kind of gave up on or didn't think, or Amon-Ra, everyone passed on. Jared Goff, he's a washed up has been, right? That's everybody's opinion of so many of these guys, and they've come together not only like as, you know, to play great football, but as a team, as a real solid group. They talked about how that grit and how it fits so much with the city of Detroit, and I feel it, man. As somebody who's from Detroit and has lived in Southern California and Florida and seen how the rest of the country kind of looks at and talks about Detroit, it is kind of the land of misfit toys, but there's no misfits. You know what I mean? I hate to use that phrase about it because it's just the way everybody else kind of views it. Detroit's, I've said it before on the show, it's a very, very special place with very, very special people that are different than anywhere else that I've been in this country and in the world. It's a very, very awesome town, very, very different, and there's a heart and a soul that make up the city, and I just love the connection that this team and these players have built with the city of Detroit and the people of the city of Detroit and the surrounding areas. It's such a perfect fit, man. The personality is so representative, and live and die together. You know what I mean? That's the thing. I hope if things don't work out this year, you know, there is potential, just so folks know, there's a potential that we won't win a Super Bowl this year. And I just want people to be aware of that, because I think some folks might not be certain of that. There is a potential that's the outcome. Don't freak. This is year 3. And I mean, I'm so reminded of the Dallas Cowboys. So it was 1-15, 8-8, and it was like what, 12 and whatever, 12-4, whatever. And then they went on to win this. I see so much of that, and it was like a snap turn for the Cowboys to turn it around on that franchise with Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman and all that. I see so many similarities between our arc here and what's going on. This is a great year. Last year was a great year. The way we closed out, ride this, man, and support your guys, support your team. Just don't bail on them the first time something goes wrong or they don't win it out this year, because this team is light years ahead of where it's been for decades. Reward these guys with your fandom and your love for what they're doing, because it's something really, really special.
They are playing very good ball, and it's reflective of their head coach, who's a guy that not a lot of people wanted as the head coach, not a lot of people respected even before his press conference, the mother of all press conferences, biting kneecaps and all that. He wasn't a popular choice. There were a lot of people like, why didn't we get somebody else? But he embraced it, and he doubled down on being Dan. Players love that.
I will beat your ass.
Yes, you will. As a matter of fact, this tone of voice, they're like, I will beat your ass.
It's just like it's like the assumed close, right? The assumptive close from the salesman. It's done. I've already beaten your ass when I said this.
And I think that Dan galvanizes those type of players, the players that other places don't want, the players that other places, they might be good football players, but they don't necessarily fit. Like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's not long for places. I can see him being longer for Detroit because they kind of get him. Jerry wouldn't have gotten as long of a leash. Alex Anzalone, a lot of other organizations would have given up on that guy already.
Yep.
He is a Pro Bowl linebacker this year, coming off the best game of his career. And there were a lot of people, and I will raise my hand slightly to be included in this group, that didn't think he was a good choice to come back. Now, I understood the company line on him, and I bought it, and I'm glad that they did it. But, man, like there's a lot of those types of players on this team.
I think there's something to be.
Graham Glasgow is another good example. This is a guy left Detroit, went to Denver, sucked ass in Denver. Now, a lot of that was injury related, and also they played him out of position, and also their offensive line coach is butt cheeks. But he came back, and he's great. Like, thank God for Graham Glasgow and that he's back, and that his quirky personality fits in with what the Lions do. They're not gonna run him out of town for being weird. And I mean that as an endearing sort of weird, because that's who he is. Like, he's He's a different cat.
I think there's something to be learned by other teams and front offices about talent evaluation and the idea if they don't work somewhere, give up on them, right? Like Justin Fields. I'm calling it early. I could be wrong here, and I'm okay being wrong, but I feel like his career's over. I feel like it's already done. Like I don't know where he's going to wind up, and wherever he winds up isn't going to be a good situation because they're dying for a quarterback, right? He's had terrible coaching, terrible. It's almost Okuda, very much the same way. Terrible coaching, terrible development. Another injury now. I mean, just nothing to really give them a chance to show who they truly are and what they can be. And I feel like Carson Wentz is the opposite, right? I mean, he had some skills, but he showed in multiple situations. But then again, did he go to a good situation? I don't know. I don't know that he did. And that's the thing. I think Justin Fields, and like I said, I think his career is over. He's going to wind up somewhere else. He's going to have an opportunity, but he's not going to wind up at the Rams. He's not going to wind up at the Seahawks. He's not going to he's going to wind up in Arizona, or he's going to wind up somewhere like that. And then it's like,
Tampa Bay.
He's just not going to have the shot to be what he really could be. Look how good Baker Mayfield actually looked with the Rams, right? I mean, he was his best Baker Mayfield because he had a good team, he had good coaching, all that. So many guys get run out because of the situation they're in, and like an Anzalone, most places would have been drummed out of the town. But this staff knew that he had something, which is why, like with Broderick Martin, I'm okay. If they say let him sit, let him sit. If we want Benny Hanna playing, let Benny Hanna play. Their decisions on talent is like, forget it. They find these guys, they find these guys that just do it. Glasgow, who had a crappy situation in Denver. Let's be honest, it was a crappy situation there.
100%.
And they recognize that he still has something, and they brought him back, and he's proved it. He's proved it again. It's something. There's something the Lions are doing in the talent space that other teams are missing on. I think other teams are going to take a minute because it's a copycat league, and they're going to look at what the Lions are doing and try to pick some of that out of there and try to figure out. That's what I think when we lose coaches, that's the biggest piece that we lose. Not necessarily the coach, but that knowledge of how we do things. That when that leaves, that's going to be the most dangerous for us.
That's where the culture can get disrupted because right now they have a really good eye for how players will fit in, not just football wise, but also team chemistry wise and locker room wise, both from the draft and from free agency. They felt like this offseason going into it, they needed an agitator, they needed a provocateur. CJGJ, perfect at it. I know he's hurt. If you watch the video that he shot at the end of the Bears game, he's still pretty engaged. He's talking to his guys a lot. They are not going to be for everybody, and they are going to pass on guys in this draft who are probably a little bit more overall talented than the players that they select, because the guys that they're passing on, they don't fit what the Lions want in total. They're not just looking at, oh my God, this guy, he can win around the edge on the perimeter so well, and he's got all the athletic attributes. Well, if he doesn't get along with your coaches and the other players don't trust him, and he's kind of just doesn't fit personally, they're not going to take him. They're not going to try to force that, and I think that's lost on a lot of teams where they're like, oh, you know what, we'll take that risk. We feel like our culture is strong enough to, and like. That's not why you have the culture. You have the culture so people who will fit into that culture will identify it and want to be part of it. Not that you're going to try to absorb people that don't fit and make it fit. That's sort of the opposite of what the Lions are trying to do. That's when people were talking about trying to get a guy like Chase Young in at the trade deadline. Chase Young's not a culture fit for this specific Lions. He's just not. Doesn't mean he's not a great player. Doesn't mean he's not going to be fantastic elsewhere. In Detroit, he's not what they're looking for. And they know that. And they're not going to take that sort of risk on that. That's just where this team is. And that's difficult from somebody who makes a living evaluating draft prospects. It's frustrating at times because there's a couple players that I know that they didn't want that would have like, damn man, that guy's really, really freaking good. And the Lions had no interest in him. Jalen Carter being one of them. No interest whatsoever in that guy. It's frustrating, but you got to trust the process on this. If you trust the process in other areas, you got to trust the whole thing. Maybe you got to be all in on it.
Yep.
Because they are.
So looking as we talk about the talent and selection of talent and how they're performing, we go back to the game. We talk about some of the insanity that is the brain of Ben Johnson, and there's some of the talk about hey, it was nice having Rodrigo out there to tackle an interception. That was hilarious. Hodges, good one. Points to you, brother. But the one that jumps out my mind is, you know what? If you're in the red zone and you want to make a play, always you want to split Jared Goff out wide. You want to get Montgomery behind center, and you want to have him with the give to Gibbs, right? I mean, that's like most common play in the world. I don't know what the hell Ben was thinking. Everybody sees that shit coming. Everybody knows exactly what's going to happen. I love that stuff. I love that creativity. It's getting closer. It's getting closer to some of the things we talked about with Gibbs right now and how dangerous teams are realizing he is in the film that he's put out there, and Montgomery with how dangerous he is in the film he's put out there, and Rodrigo with his role. I'm just telling you, Riz, before the end of the year, we're going to run a wishbone play with those three. Bring back the wishbone, baby.
I want to see a fullback wheel route to Rodrigo.
Oh, man. That'd be fun.
Make that happen. He can catch.
Yeah.
Like, he can do it.
Yeah, and his little legs
He's
move.
playing more on offense than he is on defense. For better or for worse. Would have liked to have seen more Rodrigo on defense against Chicago on a day where Jack Campbell had one of the worst halves of football of any linebacker I've ever seen in the first half of the game. To his credit, he got better. He's a rookie. He's learning. He's learning the hard way sometimes. And we've been talking about this in the Patreon Slack channel, the smartest Lions chat on the internet. And I thought it was great because I thought a couple people made good points. Like, let's let him play one position. We talked about this, Chris, with Isaiah Simmons back when he was drafted. Like, it's great that he can play every spot on your defense in the back seven, but can he play any one of them? And right now, I feel like the Lions are not. They're sort of doing the same thing. Like, let's let him play one instead of trying him at 3 or 4.
Yep.
Let's just let him master that one and build off that. I feel like they're sort of misusing him or asking him to do throwing the spaghetti at the wall and he's freshly coated paint. It's just not. It's bad. I certainly still have a lot of hope for him long term, and I actually like the way he was resilient in this game too. He played better in the second half than he did in the first half. That's good. I want to see him not get so much thrown at him, and I think they might know that too.
I think there's a lot of talk in the chat right now, and then we'll wrap up our Bears revamp talk here. Yeah. A lot of talk in the chat though about Hutch and Holding. Holding is just free for all in the NFL right now. Hutch does and a couple people have touched on it. Hutch is great at throwing his hands up and calling it out, but even without, I mean, seeing his shoulder pads launched into orbit is a pretty sure sign he's being held too. They're just not calling it this year. And then they do on the shittiest.
That's league wide.
Yeah. On the shittiest of shit, the branch call was just horrible. It was. Look, sure, technically you're right, but you know what? In the cacophony of every single hold that happened on every single route out there, that was nothing. There was 10 times more egregious things happening that were uncalled all the time. Just be consistent. That's all I ask. Be consistent. The Lions beat that stuff and they came through. That's it. I saw it earlier too. The fact that the Lions won this game actually, I think, makes them look more dominant than had they just won this game like normally. They come out a lead, won by 15 points or whatever else. The fact that they came back and did this really shows that you don't have them down until that clock is at 0 and you have more points. The Bears came out. They had all the grit. When this game started, they were the ones hitting hard. They are the one fighting. but they just didn't have the staying power, right? They juiced a little too fast. But the Lions, the Lions are built different. They're built differently. I had to move on. They're just built differently. So good stuff from the team. Good play. Come back from that. It shows a heart and a soul on a team that hasn't been there before. This team would have folded up tent long ago. The Chicago Bears played an old PTSD Lions game, and the Lions played like winners. Period.
I'll add one little quick thing to this. In the last 2 weeks, they have beaten a Bears team that's inferior, that had their A game, and the Lions did not, and they still prevailed. The week before that, they got into a shootout with a Pro Bowl quarterback, with a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and a fantastic weapon on the backfield, and they outscored their ass. Yep. They have different ways to win a game. They don't have to have the script go the way that they want it to. The 49ers, they can't do that. That's one of their flaws. The Ravens can't really do that. Now, they certainly did their thing very well against Detroit. I love the fact that the Lions can win a game in any number of ways, that it doesn't have to follow a certain script or two. They can go way the hell off script and still come back and win and find different ways to beat different teams. That, to me, makes them incredibly dangerous in the postseason. You know, everybody's worried about, can they stop Jalen Hurts? Can Philly stop them? I don't think so. It depends on the game. Yeah. Depends on who plays well that day. I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. I'm not worried about, can we stop, can our defense get, like, can their defense stop us? Because they need to have that same conversation that we are having about that right now. And I can tell you, in San Francisco anyways, they're worried about that. They're like, we just don't match up well against Detroit. Like, they have so many weapons that they use that we don't know how to defend that. Like, the 49ers defense is built primarily on taking away your best player. You do that in Detroit? Okay, you're going to take Amon-Ra away? Great. We're going to go to Josh Reynolds. We're going to go to Sam Laporta. We're going to go to Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. Yep. We're going to run David Montgomery up your ass. Yep. That's they don't do that well. I said this on the Huge Show earlier, and I mean this, and I'm part of. We have to learn that other teams see us that way.
That's the thing. And this is where I think the Lions now and Lions fans have to recognize things are a little bit different. Yes. Other teams have to bring their A game. Shane, right there in the comments, had it. Other teams will bring their A game, because to beat the Lions is that catapult for them to turn something around, to say, see, we've got it, we can do it. Other teams are circling the Lions on the calendar when they play them. We're going to play everybody at their best now. We're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. We're not the underdog anymore. Get used to it. It's just the way it is. All right. Hey,
subscribe. Don't think the Packers want payback?
Like, subscribe, and make sure you get all that going on. We appreciate everyone who does that. Helps us with all the stuff we're doing, and helps other people find us. We appreciate you for doing that. Keep forgetting to ask in these shows for folks to do that, but do hit that subscribe, hit that like right now. There's only 58. You guys are like 20% like ratio. Just hit the button. It's right there. Tappy. Go. All right, let's get to the next one. We're going to go into the injury and depth, where the Detroit Lions stand. We've got one person not practicing. Mr. Risden.
Jonah Jackson, left guard. Hasn't practiced either day this week. Won't. Well, the Lions haven't technically practiced either. They've done walkthroughs. Yep. Packers are doing the same. Short week, you don't need to do that. The familiar opponent, you're not going to go out there and strap pads on and beat the hell out of each other. He's the only guy that didn't practice. He's on the very doubtful side of very doubtful to play on Thursday. We will find out around this time tomorrow that he will be. I think they're going to list him as out. I don't think they're going to pussyfoot around it. Just remember also that in the Dan Campbell era, every single player who has been listed as doubtful and missed at least one practice in the week has not played. That's not going to change. So figure on Colby Sorsdal being your left guard again. Okay. Everybody else healthy, full participant. Frank Ragnow even was listed as a full participant. This is typically his day off for veteran rest. He was up there.
Yeah.
We're in good shape health wise.
I think there's something to think about though with Jonah. Okay, the injuries this year are tough, especially in a contract year. And what does he mean?
Yeah.
Like someone said in the chat earlier, hey, we have the most expensive offensive line in the league. Like, but it's working. Unfortunately, two of the guys aren't playing, but it's working, right?
You get what you pay for.
Yeah. So Jonah, I'll just tell you, he's got a we'll just say a very decent deal on offered, and he wants top guard money. I don't know if they're going to come to terms on that. I just don't know. Okay, he's also got a broken wrist.
I would agree,
and that's going to be tough too.
Yeah. The
those
injury
things are going to
is
be hard
not
to pencil together because of all the injuries that have happened. Love Jonah. I absolutely love Jonah and wish there was a way to pay him top guard money and keep him in and put him in bubble wrap and keep him healthy. We've talked about that. The injury bug is not really a thing with Dr. Liao, who had a great injury item earlier today. He will do that weekly for us.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. But we've got this situation, right? And these things we have to triangulate, as any team has to triangulate the cost and the value. Like Vaitai, he's not expensive today. Would we re-sign him? No, because we don't think we're going to get the value for what we signed him. Would we sign him as a backup? I don't think we'd throw that away. Sign him for a 2-year, 3-year cheap ass deal and as a backup to sit and only be there, play 2 games a year. Maybe you could do that.
I think he's retiring.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to happen. I'm just in the theater of
your hypothetical world.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. That's fine, and you have a really, really solid backup in that scenario, right? But I'm nervous about the Jonah. I think he's the one that goes. I think that lowers the overall cost of the offensive line, and I think Colby's a lot happier on the right side. He's a lot more comfortable over there. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll see what plays, but this also gives us an opportunity to maybe draft a stud, right? To draft in a guard, you can get a stud, a little bit later. He's not
Christian Mahogany. Give him to me.
He's not your 4th overall pick, right? Not that we're ever going to have a 4th overall pick in a little bit. But that's that. So that's where it is. That injury sucks. It stinks for him, but I have a feeling somebody's going to pay him. I just think somebody's going to pay Jonah the money he wants, and he's going to go somewhere and be happy with that. And he loves the team, he loves the coaching, he loves everything, but he also knows, hey, for me, I need to make the money. This is intergenerational wealth, and I'm going to take that with me, and I'm going to get it however I can. So that's that. Jonah's it for the Lions injuries. I mean, otherwise we're really healthy,
We're in great shape,
which is crazy because not only that, we've got a long week to get even better. And if you think about, everybody's dinged up, right? Everybody's dinged up. Joy 2 times. I know what he wants. Everybody's got bumps, bruises, whatever. So to have this long time after Thanksgiving to heal up right now for that late season run is really, really helpful, especially after we just had the bye week rest. I mean, this is all just fallen just right for the Lions to be in the best shape possible. You got CJ getting ready to come back here in probably the 10th-ish of December, right? Like, we're talking some good stuff. Yeah. I really, really, really like it. I like it. So anyway, that's where we are. Injuries. Let's just really quick talk about the Packers injuries, because man, it is a laundry list. This is like this is how it used to be. It goes flipped. Everything's flipped. Like the Bears played an old Lions game, right? And now we have the Packers with the old Lions injury report. There's 5, 6, 7, 8. There's probably 12 guys, 15 guys on here.
I'm looking at it.
I'm just going to go did not practice.
List, so I got to blow this up.
Did not practice.
Who did not practice today?
Devondre Campbell. DeGuara.
So we got Devondre Campbell. Yeah.
You got Aaron
Josiah
Jones.
DeGuara.
Luke Musgrave. Dontavion Wicks. And Emmanuel Wilson did not practice. Yeah. Right off the top. Yep. Limited practice. And these are limited practice all week. So no one went from did not to limited. Right. Limited practice. Jair Alexander, Corey Ballantyne, Kenny Clark, AJ Dillon, Rudy Ford, Rashawn Gary. Oh no, Rashawn Gary. Sorry, he's full practice. He went from
Rashawn's back.
Yep. Elton Jenkins, Kelshan Nixon. God, I'm reading.
Keyshawn.
Not saying. Yeah, thank you. I'm reading, not saying. Darnell Savage.
Yeah.
Christian Watson went from limited to full practice, and Jaden Reed went from nothing to limited practice, wide receiver. So walking wounded, right? And they're coming in on a short week. We're coming in on a short week with Jonah out that we know about.
Just looking at that, that's 2 of their top 3 tight ends. That is 2 of their top 3 cornerbacks. That is their top 3 running backs. That is both their starting safeties. like they're beat to hell, man. Elgton Jenkins is valuable offensive. Devondre Campbell, he was 2 years ago what Alex Anzalone is in Detroit this year. Just a revelation, a guy who was sort of a, okay, he's on the team, yay, and became an All-Pro. And he hasn't played to that level again, but he's still pretty good. Like and by the way, his injury is a neck injury. If you haven't participated in 2 practices and you got a neck injury, I'm going to guess you're not going to play. Like Keyshawn Nixon is their return specialist and a very good one. Like they're banged up, folks.
Yeah. They're as much as they want to beat Detroit, their best chance was earlier this year. They've got to come to Detroit on a short week with the walking wounded and try to put together a victory against a team that's going to hit them with right in the mouth, right? You know, Riz, there is an absolute FTP mindset in the players too. They know what this division is. And you know, Taylor Decker, he holds that. He knows what it's been like. He knows what it's like. He had a great interview, another podcast, I forget it off the top of my head, but where he's talking about, you know, what it's like to be on an absolute loser and turn it around into a, you know, to get to where they are now. And you just have some of these things, these wounds that you carry and you remember, you know what I mean? Some of these old BS jobs that the fake face mask, all the other stuff. You're right, Don. FTP, 100%. They absolutely remember that stuff, and to be able to be the ones to bully those mofos around, trying to be the ones to be able to bully those guys around is absolutely just lovey juice for these guys. This is exactly what they want. I'm trying to say stay clean and be nice, but it's hard.
That's what she said.
That's why she got the lovey juice. Thank you, Riley. Appreciate that. PFF, they say he is clearly the worst grade amongst our offensive starting linemen this year. People are working on their pictures. Okay, cool. Just really quick in the chat, if you guys could just help me kind of reset it. Can I get an FTP in the chat? Everyone just give me an FTP, please. All right, Riz, injuries. Anything else you want to talk about on the injury front for the Lions or the Packers?
Let's go back to CJ GJ for a minute, because he sort of hinted at it in his video that everybody's posted. Hopefully you've watched it. Hopefully you watched it without kids nearby, because it's not for the faint of heart at all. Before he talked about the Bears issue, he talked about coming back and he sort of flexed his arm like this, the injured one, and that's when he said the 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then he corrected himself. It actually glitched out for a second, and he said 3 weeks. And that is when the Lions played the Bears again. That is also when he's tracked to come back. And he unintentionally revealed that it's not unknown. That's something that Dr. Liao has talked about. Like, he expected him back in early December from the injury. He talked about that in the brilliant appearance, and I love the fact that he's so good, man. Love you, Dr. Liao. You're bringing it. It's good. Yeah. So expect him back for the next Chicago game, because he wants a piece of that.
Oh God, you guys are coming through with the FTPs. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on from the injuries and depths. Let's get into the next one. This is one we like to call sideline stunners. I love it because it's a good double entendre. Story comes out and it broke in two different points in time, two different admissions. But Krista Thompson basically with I'm just going to cut it down to the very, very short of it. I'm going to nutshell this. I make shit up when I talk about what I report on the coaches, what they said on this. I just make shit up. I mean, is that wrong, Riz? I mean, it's not the exact words. I didn't say a quote, but
she didn't mean it that way, but that's certainly how it's interpreted, and that's how it should be interpreted, because that's not what you want to say. Her larger point was that sometimes we can't get the coaches to say anything that's of use for us, so we have to go off what we've got. And she went and said, sometimes I just have, like, that's bullshit, man.
This is why the democratization of content and reporting is so good, because the people with all the ins and the powers and the controls, they just make shit up. They just make shit up when they need to, and or when they have a narrative to support or whatever else, they just out of their butt. This was horrific.
I cannot believe she hasn't been fired. I can't believe she's not fired yet.
Yeah. And you've got people in the industry all over the place, just absolutely excoriating her for this. Here it is. Okay. You've got people, the Athletic, you got all kinds of, like, what is this? What has she done for women? The sideline reporters, people say, oh, they're just, Laura Oakman is one. I mean, lots of them have said, Andrea Kramer,
Andrea Kramer came out hard on her. By the way, she's in the NFL Hall of Fame. She's not some Johnny-come-lately. She knows what she's talking about.
It harmed those working as sideline reporters. And it's a role that centers on establishing trust with the teams and the leagues being covered, as well as the viewing audience. Her failure to take her job seriously is one of the things. They're talking about that's just everybody, people all over, just wrecking on it. Now, here's the thing, and this is the thing that I think is really kind of messy. She said the quiet part out loud, because I think that happens a lot more than people want to admit, not just with, sideline reporters, but across the board, because they have to say a whole lot of words in 3.5 hours. And I think that they're just a lot of times just making some shit up along the way, because that'll fly and it's good enough. I just really,
I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in smaller doses, and I think, and this is where she gets a little bit lost in the fact that she did explain that she was reiterating what coaches had told her in the lead up to the week when they're doing the game. She was reflecting what was told to her then. Nobody really cares about that, because she said she made stuff up.
Yeah,
that does happen, and we can ask Dan Miller about that, like, because there are times where he has to fill.
Well, but this is the thing. This is so Dan. I trust implicitly, because I know Dan's character, right?
Right.
But we also we go to Senior Bowl. We know a whole lot of other people's characters as well, right? In the industry. There's a reason. I just saw a study. 39% of the population of the U.S. absolutely don't believe the media and journalists, which is why the word journalism has been so degraded into so little. But I just, and to aspire to be someone that nobody trusts is probably not, the box you want to put yourself in. But it's really like when the veil comes off and you see it, it's like everything. When you see how the sausage is made, it's often a very, very ugly process. And I think she said the quiet part out loud, and there's a whole lot of people. I don't think everybody, like Dan Miller is a great example of somebody who, because he's not only judicious, he's cautious, he's thoughtful. He doesn't just shoot from the hip and ride. You know what I mean? He is truly, he's a guy that believes in the ethical standards of journalism that have existed for years, right? So it's something. Anyway, this sideline reporting, I wonder, this is when you see something like this is usually just the initial kind of crack in the dam. I wonder if this is going to break into something bigger, or they're going to get the spackle in there and hold that thing tight, because behind this is a deluge, I think, waiting to come.
I wonder if they're going to be able, remember they didn't used to talk to coaches on the field, and certainly was never on camera. I wonder if it's going to go back to that, where, okay, the coaches and players are off limits, but we can talk to the trainers, or we can talk to a designated media representative from the team at halftime as they're going in. I kind of think that that's where they're going to go with it. I don't know, just my guess on it.
Yep.
I used to be one of those people that was like, I don't really give a crap like what the coach is saying, but sometimes they do get nuggets that are worth getting out there, because if coaches are, caught off guard a little bit or unawares, and if they trust the person that they're talking to, they might reveal. Like, I get that. My view has changed the more that I've seen how the industry works. Like, I do think they serve a valuable role. I really do. And I didn't used to think that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be saddened if that went away.
I think it's valuable. I know it's valuable. But when you can't trust that it's real, it's completely devalued. Does that make sense? Nick?
And one of the other things, and this isn't so much at that, but we talked about this with Dan on the St. Jude's telethon, was that when Dan Campbell is talking to us in the media, he's not talking to us. He's talking to his team. He is prevailing upon them the themes that he wants, and that I won't psychoanalyze Dan because I don't know him enough to say that he's doing this, but I think he's putting extra pressure on his team to get his message and reinforcing it by saying what he says to us when he answers questions.
I got the media room today. Today, the media room, when he said something that might be considered culturally offensive, and it's an old school term for something. Watching the uncomfortable, or listening to the uncomfortable low level murmur of giggle and wet in their own pants from the media, it was like, oh, how do we police this? It was really something. You could tell it was just so, like, they didn't know what to do in the moment. It's fucking great, and he's like, okay, and he just kept going. I love Dan. He's like, I fucked that one up. Oh well, and just kept going. Whatever. Like, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, I get, like, I think about how old he was and what, I was like, okay, I get where it came from, and it's like no malicious intent at all, right? But if that was Matt Patricia, there would be headlines on every fucking site right now about exactly that phrase that he used. And that's the difference. We're going to drive the narrative. We're going to decide who wins and who loses, because we're journalisms. God, whatever. Anyway, okay. Sideline stunners. Not so real news. All right, moving on to the next thing. I was doing a little dude there again. Looking ahead to the Green Bay Packers. Don't miss Ash's breakdowns. He'll break down how the offense and defense will attack the Packers, and that's always a really, really good watch. He does some really, really good stuff, and there's a couple reallys there that you can think about. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers defense. Riz, what are the keys for the Lions and the defense? What do we have to beat?
This is a team where you need to go smack them in the mouth, because they are, the word finesse will be construed as soft, and I don't mean them to be soft, but they are a finesse-based defense. They're not a team that's going to try to slobber knock you. They are a team that's going to try to read and react. What do you do to a read and react team? You don't give them time to react. You punch them that fast. Jab. Go at it. Move the ball around. Don't let them key on any one thing.
Yep.
I want to see a JMO jet sweep or a tunnel screen or something where you get the ball in his hands right away and let him go at it. Especially if Devondre Campbell is up, because he's their linebacker that does all the calls. Then you're putting that stress on a backup. Also knowing, oh crap, that guy's a lot faster than me, dude. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. This is a game that I think Jameson Williams is going to have a much more prominent role in the offense. He gets 2 catches, 2 or 3 targets every week. I think he's going to double that this week. I think he's going to get a non-traditional touch for a wide receiver, whether it's the little shovel pass inside that Amon-Ra can get, whether they give him a reverse of something. I see that in the works for Jamo this week, and they do not have the speed to handle him.
As someone
and if they do, they try, then that's where Sam Laporta, that's where David Montgomery up the ass, baby. Like that's where that's what the Lions are good at. The Lions are really good at manipulating defenses that aren't the aggressor, probably because they see it in practice a lot.
I think
they're really good at attacking those.
The phrase you're pointed with your words. Non-traditional touch seemed a little bit okay. He got a non-traditional touch. Okay, I like it. I get it. I know where you're going, but that's a non-traditional phrase. I like that though. I really like the idea of a non-traditional touch for Jamo. I'd like to see his use expanded. I think this is a good game to leverage those opportunities and start saying, okay, Jamo, it's time now. It's moving it to the next level. And now we want to see you perform at the next level, because this is a game that I don't want to see handily or easily, because of course the other team gets paid and they get, you play the games or whatever. But I feel like this is a game that we'll have in hand and that we may be able to run some experiments with. And those experiments may include Jamo. Can you get to the next level? I mean, you've got Jair Alexander, who's achy breaky with a shoulder. You got Campbell, one of their inside linebackers who's got a neck, right? I mean, so start thinking about what the middle of the field looks like, and you've got maybe not their best cornerback, their number one cornerback on the field. It may give him some opportunities, and then by giving him those opportunities, if he's successful, you get to really grow the quality of the trust between him and Goff. The chance, like how much room he has to operate. It just gets an opportunity for him to find that groove and find that role and find some success and get some confidence out of it. And this is where I think is the big spot for this week. It's almost like this should be and could be Jamo's breakout week. Just the way everything else is falling, this is where I think he gets the big chance. And this is where it's like, Jamo, do it now, or we're not going to see you for a couple of weeks till shit's locked up. So we'll see what happens with that. I see Riz had some popcorn being made up. That's okay. He'll be back in a second.
I'm here, Chris.
I'm here. Okay.
There I am. Let me just say this about that, though. Ben Johnson might construe that as like, yeah, all that's true. And that's why we're going to have Craig Reynolds get 15 carries this week. Like, just because nobody expects a Spanish Inquisition. Like, that's sort of the way that Ben Johnson thinks. This could be a week where James Mitchell gets 3 targets. I don't think he has one this year. And that's the beauty of the Lions offense, though, because if you're playing on defense, like, you can't rule out that they might do that. Like, this is a team that threw a play-action pass to Brock Wright. This is a team that uses Dan Skipper, that has a linebacker playing fullback, replacing a linebacker playing fullback. Like, they're non-traditional. Very difficult to defend that, especially when you have a defense that doesn't have a tone. And if you watch Green Bay, I think that's one of the things that you see is that they don't necessarily. They don't. Well, their defensive coordinator is Joe Barry. Like, we sort of know this defense. Like, it's okay. It's more of a damage control defense than a defense that's going to take things away the way that Baltimore or Cleveland or San Francisco does. That's not what they do. And that's why I said last week, and I still believe this, Chicago Bears are a much more difficult opponent for the Lions than the Packers are, because the Bears, they might not have the horses. They do have an identity. Like, they aggressively try to take things away from you, and they did it fairly successfully for a while on Sunday. That's not what Green Bay is. And I think that doesn't match up very well for the Packers against the Lions at all. I think fantastic. This is the easiest game left on the schedule the entire rest of the season.
Yes.
Like I don't even think that's like debatable. And I said that going into the Chicago game. This is the easiest game left on the schedule. I trust that they got that little burp, the bad Goff, the bad linebacking play outside of Anzalone, the weird Kirby Joseph. Not so okay. I got to give PFF a little crap here. They charged the touchdown throw that went to DJ Moore to Jerry in coverage. I will tell you, I've watched that play probably 15 times. Jerry did exactly what he's supposed to do on that play. That is, he funneled the receiver to his help, which is Kirby Joseph, who was not there, who wasn't paying attention. Touchdowns on Kirby, and PFF issued it to Jerry. Now, Jerry could have played it better. I'm not going to dispute that. He did not stay on the hip as you would want him to do, but he also had to worry about a route that was coming on the outside. It was a tough spot to put him in. Give the Bears credit for a good play design. Their offense isn't known for that. They did a good job there.
Yes.
But those sorts of mistakes, I don't trust the Packers have more talent around the board on offense, but I don't trust Christian Watson, Romeo Dubs. Those guys drop passes. They got running backs. Their running back room is decimated right now. Who knows what they're going to do? I don't think they match up with us well at all. I really don't. I know I'm setting myself up here, so I'm trying to be careful about it. I'm not worried about this game at all. This is a game where if the Lions don't win this game by 27-10 or 35-20, I'm going to be a little disappointed in the Lions because they should win that way. Let's see if they can do it. I think they will.
Yes. So I want to just give you some breaking news really quick.
Right.
Scott Mitchell had some comments about the Bye Bye Barry piece. And I'm sorry I'm interrupting this, but it's happening right now. You folks definitely have to watch it because we're getting an interview scheduled with Scott Mitchell right now. We're going to have a conversation and we're going to talk about Barry and his thoughts and what he had to say about the documentary. But basically, "fuck you all" is the quote that stands out from what Scott said. So this will be excellent. I'd love to give him a voice, and I'd love to hear what he has to say. So Scott Mitchell is coming as an interview. If that doesn't deserve a like and a subscribe, what does? We'll have that on for you guys. It'll be within the next week. So we'll get that put together, and we'll get him on, and it's going to be awesome. Okay. Let's go back to I'm sorry, Riz. That was all breaking in the background, and I wanted to make sure we had that covered. Let's go back.
I learned it with the rest of us. I'm very excited about that. That's gonna be sweet.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you, Riley. You are absolutely fantastical. Okay, so we've got that. We've got the defense. Let's talk about the offense and what the Lions bring. What the Lions need to do defensively against the Green Bay offense. I just want to kind of throw back to the draft day where they picked Jordan Love, and when I laughed hysterically. I stand by that laughter. 100%. Jordan Love was he's starting for him. That's fine, but I think he was a terrible pick at that time. I think they really just cocked that draft up. Absolutely just cocked that up. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. So there they are. We have Jordan Love. He's mobile, but he's not Jalen Hurts. He throws the ball, but he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not a whole lot of guys. And under pressure, people talk about Goff under pressure. Oh no. Jordan Love under pressure, it is an absolute chemical spill, right? A tire fire in a dumpster. It's incredible. That's the key, I think, is making him move, getting a couple hits on him, getting him scared, letting him see that barely growing in beard of Hutchinson right up in his face. I just, it's coming better. You know, it's like year over year, he's had some really good facial hair improvements. I'm watching my son go through the same thing, a little bit of patchiness, but it's get that up in his grill. Get some McNeil pushing up the middle, right, and see that big boy coming at you with those eyes, because he's got his eyes. Have you ever seen his eyes while he plays? The intensity. Yes. I love McNeil. He's you get to talk to him like one-on-one, and you see like the sweetest man in the world, like you in his face and his eye. But man, when he's playing, all of a sudden there's like laser beams shooting out, right? It's really something. He needs to see those. Love needs to look directly into those eyes. But it's all about, because Christian Dobson and Romeo Drops, those guys, look, they're fine wide receivers, but they're kind of, I feel like they're good in different ways, but they're both B tier kind of receivers, and you got kind of a B tier quarterback, and that creates a lot of problem for you. I don't want to say they're bad receivers, right? They're obviously NFL caliber receivers. I'd love to have them on our team. I'd love to have them on the Detroit Lions instead of as Green Bay Packers, right? So I don't want to knock them down, but they're nowhere near a Calvin Johnson, right? They're not an Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're not like that top tier kind of guy. Fast as hell Watson, right? Dubs is a great receiver. They're just not all that. And I think getting Love uncomfortable gives our corners everything they need to be able to beat those guys just about every single time. That's my play on how to tear up this Green Bay offense.
Love has a little bit of Brandon Weeden to him, in that if you pressure him, he's going to make mistakes. He has an overdeveloped panic gene. It's not Zach Wilson level, but it's approach. This is a guy that if you get pressure in his face, he's going to make mistakes. And I think there's a mutual lack of full trust that the Lions don't have to worry about that. Like, they trust Goff, and Goff trusts his guys to do the right things. And I will lump JMO into that. I think he and JMO have come together better with an understanding of how they can work better together. I think that's a very exciting development for the Lions going forward. I haven't seen that with Jordan Love and his receivers or his line yet. That's, you know, it's weird because I don't think Jordan Love's a bad quarterback. But I don't think he's also a guy that you're going to need to play really well around him for him to be at his best. And we haven't seen that very often.
Yep.
And, this is not Justin Herbert. This is not Lamar Jackson. This is not. He's in the Baker Mayfield tier of a guy that on a good day can give you problems, but you don't know when you're going to get that good day. And if that good day isn't there, you're not going to be too worried about him. That's where I'm at with Jordan Love. I would put Joshua Dobbs over him right now because Dobbs is smarter, and I don't mean that as a slight at Jordan Love, because Joshua Dobbs is literally a rocket scientist. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I did get a 15-minute solo interview with him at the Combine, and I'm like, this guy can run the country if he wants to. Like, he's destined for things a lot greater than the NFL if he chooses to it. So I'm a little more concerned about him than I am about Jordan Love.
Just
even
quick,
though he's very new to that situation. I'm just not. Again, I'm weirdly cockily confident. The last time I felt this way about a Lions team was when they played the Giants last year. Like, I just knew they were going to win that game. Like, no, they don't match up well with what we do well, and they don't particularly threaten our weaknesses very well. And I feel the exact same way about these Packers this year. I really do.
Hey, Arthur Fonzarelli says that I think the Packers are soft, and I'm not just saying that. The Lions have beat up on soft teams this year. I think that's actually a very, very good point. I'll use the word grit rather than soft. They lack the grit that the Lions have, and
yes,
they will beat them up. Easy Does It asked about Jaden Reed. He's injured. He showed up in the injury with limited practice as a chest injury. So I'm not saying he won't play, but that may well affect him. Yeah, he's a good wideout, but
he's going to be good.
Yep.
He is their slot receiver of the future.
Yep,
good player.
But especially as a slot with some kind of a chest injury, that can be very problematic. So
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how they'll
Yep.
go. Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. Riley, thank you. Got you. Inbox. It's rolling in right now.
That's good.
There it is. I got it. Okay.
Sweet. Life is good, man. When these things happen, it's, I just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
It's fun when you get out in public now and people want to talk about the Lions and they're excited about the team. And they're not worried about, like, who are we going to draft? Like, Chris, you know me. I love the NFL draft. It's my chosen vocation. And I love doing it, but I also love the fact that I don't have to do that for the Lions this year. And being able to detach the draft Jeff from Lions Jeff is fun. And I love when, like, my interactions when I talk to people at the gym, they're coming up and like, I believe, like, this, we got this. Like, the excitement, it's palpable. It's fun. It's fun to be a Lions fan, and I want to keep enjoying that. And I hope that more and more people are enjoying it and coming out of the, going from being a peafowl to being a peacock.
Yeah.
It's great.
I've said it. I'll say it one more time, just for those who are in the back. Hit the like button and subscribe. No, that's not it. This is your chance right now. This is your chance as a Lions fan to really just be a peacock, be that insufferable a-hole. My problem is I work with a bunch of people from Philadelphia, and I'm like, I don't want to go too hard on it, but the second that shoe drops,
they're good too.
The second, like, if they get somehow eliminated in the first round of the playoffs and we don't, do you know how hard I'm going to go on them? Do you know how bad I am going to rip on them and humiliate them as a Lions fan? Because you know why? You never get that chance again. Everybody loves you right now because you haven't hurt anybody else. But this is the year we're hurting people. After this year, and after the people that are going to be jerks anyway, just be a jerk. You get credit for it because you're going to get credit for being a jerk even if you're not. Just be a jerk. Be loud, be proud, support your team, and love every minute of it, because this is something. What was it? I think Brandon talked about it. It's been since like 1962 since the Lions have been here. Love it.
8-2. They have not been 8-2 since before the Ford family bought the team. They bought the team.
Breathe it in.
Let's say the 22nd, the day Kennedy was shot, which I believe was November 22nd, 1963. That was been 60 years? Yeah, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Love it. Enjoy it, and go with it. Okay, let's do this one last thing. We have a quote about this Packers game from Dan Campbell. He basically said it. This was at post conference. The press conference was over. I was able to get a call in with him, and he said,
I will beat your ass.
So I don't know. It's gonna be tough. All right. With that, we're going to call it a show. Remember, don't forget about us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. $5 a month in the Patreon gets you access to the Slack, the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. It's like 376 smart people and 4 stupid ones. It's a great time. The ratio is better than anywhere. Join us, have fun. It's a great way to support the show. Everything we kind of talk about, we try to do it so you get something back on the other side, right? It's not just please give us money. Like, we're trying to help you get something out of it. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast and at Jeff Risden. DET Lions Podcast. That's where you get all the news, announcements, what's happening, when's a show, when's there's not a show. Are we going to do something on Thanksgiving? That's where you'll find out. When's the Scott Mitchell interview? That's where you'll find out at DET Lions Podcast. Tune in on Twitter for that. Also, give us a call on Skype, Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, or call us in the Lions line, 248-782-8384, 248, or rub a you a fug. I don't even know what it means, but it sounds good. Be sure to go to the DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast. I think that was the sound of Riz coming inside your ear holes automatically. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're number 2. And we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection.